Hello, here we have my Triumph Herald 1360. The past couple of episodes I've been doing some rust repair on the rear because someone ran into the back of it and the rear end is going to need to be painted because of that once the accident damage is fixed. However, there was little bits of rust here and there which we've dealt with and is ready to go back to the accident repairers who will do all the actual accident repair work, get painted. Be great. There's one thing remaining though. I'm going to skin the door because it's going for paint. The door may as well be painted the same colour. And just as a note, I'll be paying for that. I'm not expecting the insurance to pay for that, especially if you work for an insurance company and are watching this. But, you know, paint matching, if you've ever had to deal with paint matching, it's not always so trivial to get something that is exactly right, so at least some of the car will be in the same colour blue. Anyway, this door I know was skinned probably in about 1992, but whoever did it did not drill drain holes in the bit they put in to repair the door shell itself. So consequently it's full of water and it's rotted out along the bottom edge. Now, I've already got a shell. I rebuilt a shell about a year ago, so all we've got to do is pop a skin on it, you know, and get it to fit everything. So, anyway, I'm going to dig out that door shell, dig out the skin, find the hinges, fresh hinges, and we will get it skinned. So seeing as the door shell and the skin are both new to this car, the first thing I wanted to do was check they were not drastically the wrong shape, and they fit fine, so we could proceed. So that's actually the most important thing to do first. If you're buying any car panel, particularly plastic car panels, look at it carefully before you do anything, because they're not always great. Anyway, I have already checked the shell fits on the door. I've already checked the skin fits on in the door aperture. And you can see I've got weld-through primer around the edge and some paint on the centre of the door. I'm actually not too fussed about most of this bit, because even the quite rotten doors I've taken apart, it's only at the bottom that really goes. We're not going to be welding along most of this. There's going to be like a couple of tacks on the edges, but it's got that zinc richness, so hopefully it's going to help us not rust so easily. Anyway, door shell needs to go on, and this anti-rattle strip, I think it's, well, whatever it is, this thing needs to hook onto the top of that skin. Should just nicely sit in place. So it immediately doesn't. I've got a little bit of interference here, so I'm just going to take it. On the Herald we've got the hole for the door lock bolt that goes there as well, so they need to be lined up. And that is sitting nicely there. And what I'm going to start to do now is fold the edge of the skin over, and I'm going to do it to the point where it's holding the skin to the shell, but we've still got some little bit of wiggle room, so we can potentially twist the door shell slightly or shuffle the skin back and forth relative to the shell, so we can actually mount the shell on the car and get the skin into the best possible position. I'm going to be using one of these to actually pinch the skin onto the frame. So you basically put your two bits of metal between there and squeeze. But you can't just start like that. You have to tip it over with the hammer first. So you need a flat face dolly. I think this is called a toe dolly. And that goes onto the edge of your skin, right at the lip. So the idea is we then hit on this flange, and that folds the skin over, or starts to fold the skin over. Now I've seen some people do this in, you actually fold the skin fully over in a couple of places to hold everything in place initially. I did try that on my first Spitfire door, and what I ended up doing was meaning I didn't have a straight bottom edge, because the folds, we must have got a little bit of stretch of the metal, or we'd had to get a little bit of stretch of the metal to allow that sort of pinch to happen, and that meant, yeah, the bottom of the door was all wobbly and I had to spend time fixing it. So I'm going to start on the edges, because that will let me start to pull this bottom edge down and in, and we'll go from there. So the dolly goes under the edge and start to work our way along. So my battery died, but there's enough footage that actually I think you should have got the idea what's going on here. And in some areas like this, I can almost get the hammer in well enough just to get it most of the way down. You can actually get a door skinning hammer that has a, similar to this, but has a bigger end on, and it's precisely so you can hammer like that. Anyway, this is actually what I thought I was buying when I bought this. So this is our final skinning tool. So as I said before, I'm not going to squash it all the way down, so we've got a bit of, hopefully a bit of wiggle room. But the thing to watch out for is that you're pinching this and keeping the tool fairly steady, because it's very easy to squash down and then be like that, or like that. And that bends your edge or marks your outside of your skin, which ideally you don't want. But it should just be a case of starting at one end and very gently working your way along. when we come to an area like this where it's quite heavily curved, I think this is going to have to be a finish off ball with a hammer dolly. And I may even come in and cut a bit away there. Also, especially along these swage lines, I'm going to be wanting to finish off with a hammer as well. Unfortunately, the door lets me have that sort of access. Door shape. Okay, so I'm going to go and do this on the other 3 edges, and then we'll come back. So now the skin is all pinched down all the way around, but not super tightly. So we can see if it fits. It should do. Now this is really handy for dealing with these plates. So stick that through one of the bolt holes, and I can line up the plate in the door to be able to get the screws home, bolts home, set screws. You can see these original ones have a sort of pointy end to help them start. Starting point, that's actually pretty good. This is huge. Again, if you've been following along with this car, this has always been huge. I'm debating as to whether I put a strip on front of the door. And that body line's lined up okay. That one's not. So the front wants to come up, but that's also the gap there is low, so I don't think. I think this is more adjustment where the actual door sits. Too much in the way of adjustment of the shell. Okay, so the skin actually just went on fine. I think everything I'm wanting to play with, and I will see whether I actually put this in or not, because I want to make this video about skinning a door, not fitting it into a slightly wonky Triumph Herald. So it's, you know, more of use to a wider variety of people. But the gap down the back is okay. It's fitting flush in the aperture once I took the seal out. This was already quite a large gap, and I've just brought the bonnet down so it's now latching as low as it will go. So that lines up, that lines up, that lines up. I think maybe I can shove this front end in a bit, see if the adjustment will let me. But I'll do that quickly, and then we'll look at finishing off all the edges. Look at that, this is the original sticker. It does say, important, Melbourne's replacement parts, body parts are not original and must not be passed off as original parts. These parts must only be used in the repair of an existing vehicle with the authority and licence of the vehicle owner. Compared to the bad, but probably closer to original, or apparently comes off the original pressing, these are actually a bit shallow. You can even see that there. It's a little bit. It's not quite as deep. but this is what we've got. It's actually not bad. That one is. So, anyway, that is enough of me talking. I will go. Actually, I'm not gonna touch that. That's got a nice curve. It meets the sill. Let's just get it put together. Okay, so I took this straight off the car and I went round with the skinning tool and I just gave it a good crimp down at the corners and a couple of places on the top edge, so it should, since we were happy with where it was sitting, just wanted to secure that in place. But now it's just a case of doing that all the way around. So as I said earlier, especially now, it's very easy to kind of kick it up, which you don't want, because that's going to push into the face of your door. So I have just found that this is holding one hand underneath there. It seems to be quite effective. So I'm pushing the block, the plastic block, against the skin. As I then squeeze, so there's less of a chance of it kicking up. So I'm going to go and do that all the way around, and then we can put in a couple of welds which just hold it in place, and they don't need to be extensive. I think they're factory, I think it was brazed, so it's just a couple of little spots just to stop it moving. And actually up here they need, little corners need welding in like that, and the same on the rear end. Again, would have been factory braze, but I have a win. The Spitfire's suffering in the rain. I've got the welder out. I've been round and I've wire brushed some little spots around the weld. And yeah, let's get a couple of tacks in. So I've been round all the corners and all the little bits on the edges, and this last bit is particular to, well, maybe other doors are like this, but it's definitely particular to the Herald and Vitesse doors. You need to squash this together and get that bit welded in. So okay, so here we go. Now the welds look pretty rubbish because I was struggling to get it to work. But what I'd done is I'd left it set for about 3mm steel. So, funnily enough, it didn't work very well. Anyway, I am going to tidy those up later. Got that little bit welded in. Filled in this little gap here. Got some grinding to do. And this, well, it's in. I need to probably need to revisit those just quickly. But kind of that's it. Let's have a look at it on the car again. There we go. Door is skinned and still fits. I'm still thinking about if I want to extend it just to close up the gap with the bonnet. It feels, yeah, just not sure because this is the appropriate length, so it's not really the door that's the problem. So I'm not sure I really want to extend it that much. Obviously I'm not playing with the bonnet at the moment. Anyway, since the point of this video is how do you skin the door, I'm going to leave it there. So I hope it's been useful for you, whether you own a Triumph or any other car. Principle remains the same. Check the settings on your welder before you start doing anything. Helpful. But for now, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, thanks for subscribing. If you have got this far and you're not yet subscribed, please hit that button, and I will see you next time. Oh, you're still here? Yeah, I had to come back out and go and deal with some of this welding because it was irritating me. But I've gone back and touched up and ground, and it's all nice now. I've filled in that and just ground it back. Plug welds are semi-decent now, so that's all good. And I've also pulled out the original bit of skin because I'm going to get these holes drilled. So I've just laid a piece of tape along this body line and punched through where all the, well, I've drilled out the little fastening things. Little tiny, whatever they are. 3mm drill bit. That was probably like an 1/8 inch or something. And I'm just going to pull this tape off here and put it on the other door skin, and then hopefully drill all the holes. That's all those holes drilled. There's one last job, and that's to do the mount for the mirror. Because there's nothing worse than having to drill holes in freshly painted panels. And the same deal here, but with a slightly bigger piece of masking tape. These are actually quite, I didn't realise this was how it worked. It's almost like a roll plug type fitting. So you're not actually putting screws into the door skin, which is what I thought was the case. Okay, now this really is the end. Promise. So I'll see you next time.